Welcome to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast.
Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast. With me this week is David Frasier, CEO of Muskegon Ventures. Thank you very much for joining me today, David.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us, or you could just reach myself at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com with email the podcast in the subject line. I mean, hey, if you want to say hi to producer Eric, you can reach him at eric@cannabisequipmentnews.com with "You do a great job producing the podcast" in the subject line. Before we get started, also make sure to subscribe to our daily newsletter so you can make sure you get a version of this episode delivered to your inbox first. David, I always like to start with a little bit of background. So how was it that you found yourself first getting involved in the cannabis industry?
My wife and I became caregivers in 2011. So we had been using cannabis well before that, and a couple of buddies of ours turned us on to the new caregiving rules, and we started with a small grow in the basement and progressed from there.
Was there anything in particular? Was it your own personal use that you made you like understand how you could help others, or was there one particular, I guess, flashpoint that moved the needle for you becoming caregivers?
It was honestly something that I had dabbled in for years, and this was an opportunity to really expand, get more knowledge, and participate more in the industry. So it was pretty exciting.
So when did your role as a caregiver evolve into, Muskegon Ventures and, the head of multiple very notable brands in the Michigan market?
It was about 2017. We got together, the partners in Muskegon Ventures. There's four of us. We had all been caregivers and dabbling in that. And when we found out that we could take it to a legal market, we put a big focus on finding out how we could actually get licensed. Back in 2017, 2018, the restrictions and the barrier to entry with the medical market was challenging, to say the least. The amount of background checks and financial scrutiny that they put everybody under, the microscope rather, that they put everybody under, there was a lot of uncertainty. The other big variable was finding a community that was going to draft an ordinance to accept us into their municipality. We ended up going to countless city council meetings, did a lot of education, brought some attorneys in that were already versed in the industry, specifically Denise Policella, to do education for these municipalities. And we had found properties in two municipalities and didn't know which one was going to accept the ordinance first. We had a great building in Muskegon Heights, and we thought they were going to be the first to the finish line. They ended up dragging their feet, and the requirements that they put on licensees, you had to physically purchase the building. You couldn't be under land contract or under contract to purchase. And they also decided to do a lottery for the licenses. So it was going to involve, a $2 million commitment into not being guaranteed a license. At the same time, we found a building in the city of Muskegon and had been courting and educating that group of councilmen and women also, and found out what overlay district they were likely to approve. And we were able to lock up a deal on a pretty large piece of real estate, about 30,000 square feet, the day that they approved it. So I signed a contract to purchase this condemned warehouse at about 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and then at 5:30 that evening, the council approved the resolution, and we were good to go. We were off to the races.
So when I hear condemned warehouse, it sounds like there was quite a bit of retrofit work in order to make it suitable for operations. I mean, was that the case?
It was. They were very creative as they passed this ordinance. So, Muskegon was known for a long time for manufacturing, and a lot of those manufacturing jobs had moved out of the state, leaving a very unsightly piece of the community with dilapidated buildings. And in their ordinance, it's a little bit amusing that I believe it was a 9-page ordinance, and 6 of those pages were dedicated to beautification and cite specific things that they wanted improved in order to obtain a license. So it's funny that, we spent, I think, $60,000 on the landscaping to our grow because of all the plant and tree requirements and beautification and upkeep. The other thing that they put in there was every licensee had to donate $10,000 to upgrade the streetlights on the main road that they approved. And then they were kind enough also, if your property wasn't large enough to fit all of the required landscaping, you could purchase those plants or trees and then just donate them to the city, and they would find a good home for all that vegetation.
You're right. That is very kind of them.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like an onerous process. Was there at any point you're just like, what did I get myself into?
I think there's been many points along the way that I've thought that with the partners, back in 2020 when we got the approval from the building department to start the retrofit, was about a week before COVID took over the world. So we were swinging hammers for a week, and then everybody got sent home. Even though cannabis was deemed essential back then because we were not licensed and our building had not been approved yet, we were non-essential. So we had to stop construction for about 6 weeks and then get going back, towards the latter end of May of 2020. We received our medical license November 10 and our adult use license 30 days later. Um, we've focused on our branding and the brand and the quality of product that we deliver right from the get-go. And back then we were wholesaling our eighth jars for 300% of what they go for now. I mean, bulk pounds back then, you were getting $3,000, $3,500 a pound, and it's just ticked considerably lower over the last 5 years. So, as far as wondering what we got ourselves into and how we were going to continue on with operations, every year I think we have to reevaluate, how that's going and what our goals are. But we're really proud of what we've been able to bring to the Michigan market. We're super proud of the team that we have. We've got about 40 employees on site at the production facility every day. Um, we've only added one gentleman to the cultivation team in 5 years, and our post-harvest turnover is, very minimal. A lot of the people that I hired as trimmers 4 and 5 years ago are now in manager roles and leading departments. So it's been a good ride.
Well, and it really speaks to the culture that you've built with the company as well.
Yeah, and the culture that it's it makes you really appreciate the hard work that you put in when you can watch the people that are boots on the ground be successful, take on more responsibility, and just have more financial freedom with their new roles.
So one thing that I noticed is that the emphasis on quality, specifically the saying quality over everything. How do you reinforce that philosophy, and how does it, you know, work through your business, everything from cultivation through the entire operation?
I believe it's really focusing on the details. The old saying is it clean or dirty? And a lot of times that's an easy answer. But when you get into the details, well, whether it be in the garden or in quality control, what is going to be dedicated to what brand or what SKU, It's not taking any of those decisions for granted and understanding that, if you stop focusing on the details, the whole operation is going to not be able to achieve your objectives. And we want to be known for a high quality, consistent product. Even the details down to communicating with our vendors. And if product on their shelf goes over what we deem is too long from the harvest date, we don't even let them give that product away. We credit it, we have them send it back because we don't want any of the consumers buying an inferior product just because a retail partner, overstocked.
Does that go on to be made into other products, or is that just waste at that point?
In the sense that we're taking it back because it's already achieved its maximum shelf life, it's waste.
Okay. Um, I was really intrigued by this idea of your perfect match. How did you come up with that idea of discovering your perfect match with a product?
A high emphasis on terpene education. I mean, a lot
Mhm.
of people really believe that, THC is what drives the helpful characteristics of any strain. And I think getting people educated on terpene profiles, what profiles are going to assist them with the challenges that they're facing is how we can get that perfect match.
I also noticed your company's emphasis on lifestyle, being a lifestyle brand. Is it possible for cannabis companies to thrive or survive without that lifestyle component?
I think that as early as the industry is, there's many different paths that companies can find with success. Lifestyle was a big part of what myself and the partners focused on with cannabis, even back from the caregiving days and before. So I think there's plenty of different options for companies to find success without being a lifestyle brand, but we think it adds a lot to our brand.
Being cannabis equipment news, I always like to ask, what's the equipment that you can't live without in your operation?
I mean, there's a ton of equipment that we can't live without in our operation. I think that the newest piece of equipment that I have found that we're really excited about is currently the soft trim machine by Platform Robotics. And I was introduced to Krishan about a year ago with a prototype that he was rolling out. And I remember the first time I was introduced to that equipment and he came on site to the facility, I really thought to myself, how incredible it was that they came up with this idea. It actually did what they said it was supposed to do. And, for years, I've used, almost every piece of trimming equipment out there from Mobius to Twisters to Tom's Tumblers, Green Bros, and none of that equipment satisfied what we could use and feel good about the product being sold under any one of our brands.
So, what was it supposed to do?
It manicures the flower sets with little to no damage. It separates your trim, and it doesn't damage your calexes or your trichome heads. And you know, every That's the same thing that any piece of trimming equipment that I've used over the years, that's what they all say. So I didn't believe it going into it, but when the platform robotics team brought the machine in for a demo and I truly looked at how fast it was, how quiet it was, the job that it did on the flowers, and not having the damage that I was used to, I thought to myself, I can't believe that I finally found a piece of trimming equipment that truly excites me.
We hear so many of those stories about the legacy equipment that sits in the corner gathering dust, right?
Yeah.
What is it about the design that's different from some of these other trimmers that, kind of separates it?
The technology that they came up with the vibrating separator, and it's truly unique. The silicone belts that they have that actually operate the machine. It's bladeless technology. It uses gravity to pull your product in, and it's a very gentle, vibrating table that separates your biomass from your flower sets.
Okay. No, I mean, that sounds really cool. Is there anything else in your operation where you're just, kind of struck with how well it helps you out?
Our evolution from where we started 5 years ago to where we are now. I mean, we went from knock boxes to an Apex pre-roll machine that uses similar technology to what they're making cigarettes with. Once upon a time, we would hand weigh all of the eighths that go to market, and it was a slow, cumbersome process. But in addition to that, the variance on your weight. I mean, when you're trying to get things to 3.5 grams and you're ending up at 3.7 or 3.8, to damage the flower sets to get down to the variance that's acceptable to pack these jars with, we were wasting pounds and pounds of product each week. We ended up going to the Green Bros packing machine. That has truly assisted in our output, but has really cut down our variance. So we can program that machine with the number of acceptable flowers to go into every prepackaged container, and we can also set the variance. We've got it set now at 4/100. So our eighths weigh between 3.51 and 3.55. So I would say those are two other pieces of equipment that we've evolved to along the way. Now, from a brand standpoint, one of the challenges that we had early on, you can see some of our eighth jars behind me, and one of the other factors that differentiates our brand from others is each one of our genetics has a different Pantone color assigned to it, and it has a specific sticker on the top of the lid. So instead of having, a one size fits all jar that we put a sticker with a strain identifier on there, each one of our genetics is a different jar. And early on, the challenges with forecasting how many jars you are going to pack, getting those printed with the specific Pantone color, having them shipped from the glass warehouse to a powder coater to the pad printer, in addition coordinating your lid stickers and designs to all come in on time so you have that fresh product was next to impossible. So over the years, we've added an entire print department to our manufacturing process. So we also have two pad printing machines in-house, one that we print all of our pre-roll tubes on, and one that we print all of our jars with.
Okay. Do you know who the manufacturer is for those?
We buy those from Tampo Print.
Oh, okay. Okay. Um, you know, Shifting to your partners that you work with, what kind of partners are you looking for when it comes to collaborations and other branding opportunities?
We're really looking for good, honest people. There's a lot of them out there in the cannabis industry, but honestly, there's still a lot of shady deals that get made and a lot of shady people that are out there that, focus more on profits over culture and don't want to satisfy their end of the deals, or they don't understand how to meet deadlines. So, when we're looking for collaborations and partnerships, we're looking for people that want to put quality first. They're not taking shortcuts, and they understand that in a relationship, it's a two-way road, and each party living up to their end of the transaction is the only way you're going to get it done.
Year over year, are you seeing more or less shady operators in the industry?
Year over year, I believe there's less. I think a lot of people got into the industry thinking, if you can buy a seed and add water and light, you hit the lotto. And when people find out that essentially growing cannabis is farming. And, you don't meet many farmers that don't work from sun up to sunrise. They don't work 7 days a week. And you have to have a good formula. You're not allowed to take days off. I think a lot of the people that found out how much work it really took to create not only a successful garden, but a successful brand have ended up leaving the industry. So overall, I think the industry is becoming more like a traditional industry.
Mhm. Is there one product in particular that you make that's your personal favorite or that you're the most proud of?
We've really kind of stuck to the basics along the way. Right now, from a Michigan standpoint, we offer the 1/8 jars. We have a number of clients that buy our product in bulk for deli style. We do pre-rolls, and we have a 1 ounce SKU, and we're rolling out a 1/2 ounce SKU. We've done a ton of collaborations with different processors to drop low release rosin. And then in our Bodega and Dailies brands, we've kind of followed that same format, but different pack sizes, some different SKUs with ready to roll flour. So I'm proud of all of the product that we put out. Over the years, we've amassed a genetic library of 250 staples, and right now we're working through 300 different varieties on a pheno hunt that we've done. So we haven't diminished the brand, with every SKU that you can logo, and we're really proud of the work that we've done in our garden.
You know, I mean, that's just incredible, and I think that it's, um, your work ethic and, your philosophy really shine through in how you're running your business. Um, I'm curious, when it comes to these collaborations and finding these partners, I understand that there are certain things that make it a cultural success or feel good story. What make them what are some of the things you look for to make them a financial success?
I believe that it's successful financially when you can roll out a high quality product. You can keep it as affordable as you can in that point, and you're doing it with other groups that are passionate. We've done a lot of successful drops with Archive. We've done some collaborations with High Tech. We've done collaborations with Known, and we're always meeting new partners to find out if we communicate well, and if we want to do something with somebody else.
It seems like a lot of markets are undergoing some adjustments when it comes to limits on hemp THC. What are your thoughts on those strategies?
Especially with the new wholesale tax
Mm.
that people are implementing, and the shortcuts that people are taking with the language in the Farm Bill, and how to get hemp into, we'll call it the licensed market or the sub-market. The way the rules are written, both with the CRA and with the federal Farm Bill, the the way people interpret and navigate those rules never ceases to amaze me with the creativity on how they how they interpret those bills. Um, you know, with the barrier to entry that we have in Michigan, I I I don't feel that it's right that people be able to bring hemp in, process it, and then get that into the licensed market. But honestly, it's not my job to police that. So I really try and focus on what we're doing and inside our four walls at our multiple facilities to make sure that we're staying true to what we believe in. We're focused on the details, and we're always delivering the highest quality product that we can to market.
Can you think of one way in particular that you were amazed by a particularly creative loophole?
I could probably think of a lot of creative opportunities that I've heard people come up with. But I don't want to throw anybody under the bus,
Oh,
and I
gotcha.
don't want to, I don't want to share their ideas with others. I'm
Oh,
sure, as with everything else, if people are correct with their interpretations and it fits within the box that the state makes us operate in, good for them. And if it's found out that they've gone out of bounds, eventually enforcement will catch up with them.
well, that's very fair. And when we were first going to talk a couple days ago. And the one thing I wanted to ask you in particular was your thoughts on the state of the Michigan market overall. I like to ask it a lot just to get a pulse on what's happening in that particular region. And then news comes out about this 24% wholesale tax to quote, fix the damn roads already.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're talking about a business with 40 some people that now becomes so much more at risk just to fix a few roads. So, what were your thoughts on the state of the cannabis market in Michigan overall? And kind of what are your thoughts on this potential, kind of potentially huge tax?
The state of the industry as a whole is definitely hasn't lived up to the expectations that my group and I'm sure plenty of other groups out there understood back 5 years ago. 5 years ago there was a barrier to entry. The license weren't going to be capped, but the scrutiny that I had to go through to get qualified for the medical license 6 years ago was probably one of the most painful administrative processes that I've been through. Going back years and years of financial statements and, watching people go in front of the board and have their dirty laundry aired out and then be denied licenses. Um, for 2 years later, for them to drop the requirement where you had to have a medical license to get the adult use license, and then just watch prices plummet. Watch people bringing in illicit product that's just hanging out in a warehouse. Hearing stories about how the fines and the enforcement, are far from uniform, depending if you're a mom and pop or you're a large company that's paying the lobbyists. If you look through some of the fines and you look through the disciplinary actions that the state has taken, an attorney of mine made a spreadsheet and combined all that data, and then you could reference violations and look at the financial penalties or the penalties that were imposed on people. There hasn't been a rhyme or reason to it. Prices have dropped considerably. And with the new market that's kind of like a gold rush, some of this was to be anticipated. As right now, we're at the lowest point at a retail price than we have been in 5 years. It was a tell to me, I believe it was last July, we hit what was then the bottom for retail product. And I think it was about $80 an ounce, and it was in July. And I looked at the statistical report and I thought, man, that is not a good sign in what's supposed to be peak season, right? I mean, the middle of the summer is when prices are usually at their highest for the year. So to hit that low point and then just have the prices continually drop over, call it the next 15 months, I thought the timing couldn't have been worse for them to propose this tax. Now, earlier in the year, the governor recommended a 32% wholesale tax, and I thought we had gotten past that, until it was Friday morning, and I woke up and found out a couple weeks ago that the House had approved a 24% tax that really nobody had heard of up until the Friday morning that they had it passed. And as far as spending the money on fix the roads, I've lived in Michigan my whole life, and for the last 30 years, a lot of the taxes that they've tried to add to everybody is all about fix the roads. I mean, the lotto was supposed to fix the roads, the excise tax was supposed to fix the roads. I truly wonder if the roads will ever get fixed and if it's just a talking point to generate more income. But, to put it on the backs of operators that have lived through the uncertainty over the last 5 years, they've watched the value of the product that they're very passionate about in most cases producing, to get hit with an additional tax of a 24% wholesale tax. While, mind you, we don't qualify for traditional bank accounts. When we got our bank account 5 years ago, I was paying $2,500 a month just in banking fees. That's come down, but not to the point where it mimics what any traditional manufacturer would pay. Um, and then with the license fees that we have to pay, and then if you sprinkle in the 280E taxes on your income, I mean, we're now at a 40%, a 40% tax rate between wholesale sales tax and excise tax. I know a lot of companies in this industry are struggling with their federal tax burden because, the average point that we're paying on our income following the 280E laws and only being able to write off cost of goods sold is astronomical. So you've got to wonder about the motives.
Well, and is part of it an understanding of the industry? Because to me, cannabis is agriculture and it's manufacturing. And the governor of Michigan in particular is a very strong manufacturing candidate, right? So how does cannabis get lost as part of that pro manufacturing motto?
That's a great question. And from the statistics I've been reading, cannabis employs 50,000 people statewide. I don't
Right.
know that there's too many other industries that in the last 5 years have went from essentially no employees to 50,000. And to put all those jobs in jeopardy, you have to wonder what the motives are.
I mean, that is one thing that is remains surprising to me is just the amount of job creation that has happened in the industry nationwide and how I just feel like the industry just doesn't get a fair shake for that.
No, they really don't. And you're it's funny on the one side you hear all of the Chicken Little, the sky is falling news, and on the other side you get tidbits and what ifs. What if it gets rescheduled? What if it gets decriminalized? What if? And being nimble, understanding that right now the philosophy that I'm taking with the new wholesale tax is it's not a my company problem, it's an industry-wide problem. And I believe there's going to be two camps. There's going to be the creative people that figure it out and they continue to be successful, and then there's going to be the people that throw in the towel, that this could take out their business and put them in a pretty large financial deficit. We're going to be creative. We're going to stick to what we've always done and what we're passionate about, and that's growing an extremely high quality, consistent product and having it at a fair price for our consumers. And, the headaches that we endure along the way, I hope aren't as great as they could be, but we're in it for the long haul.
That is just encouraging to hear, David, and truly inspirational. I really do appreciate it. Man, I wish I had a wall in the studio to run through. Um, do before we get out of here, is there anything else that you want to make sure the Cannabis Equipment News audience either knows about yourself or your work with Muskegon Ventures?
I think I'd really like to people to judge us on the product that we put out to market, the experience that they have with us. I'd like them to check out our website. Feel free to reach out to me directly. It's kind of funny if you go to our website, michigrown.com, the contact phone number on there is my cell phone, because if it goes to an office phone or somewhere in the conference room, we're never going to find out the important calls that come in. So if you ever got any questions, if you want to know what's upcoming, what fresh drops are landing, where, feel free to give me a call, and we appreciate the support.
Well, next time I'm out in the area, I really hope I get a chance to check it out. And, good luck to you and all your employees, man. I feel like you're doing really good work out there.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on today.
Before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach me at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com with email the podcast. You can also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. For David Frasier, CEO of Muskegon Ventures, I'm David Manti. This is the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast, and we will see you next week.
Welcome to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast.